Well, that did not exactly go as planned. There are, well, there's good news and bad news. Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and the work continues on the engine swap, my daily driven 1975 XJ6. It's behind me over there with no engine in it at the moment. And hanging in the crane is the broken engine I just pulled out. It has a crack in cylinder number 2, so I have a replacement engine in good shape. However, they're not exactly the same. Replacement engine is a Series 1. This is a Series 2 car with a Series 3 engine. I know it gets a little complicated, but I don't want to straight swap it in. I want to use a lot of my parts. Also, I haven't purchased a complete engine, so I will need lots of things from the engine we pulled out. So we'll have a look at that today and also try and get some of those things off and prepare them. So sometime in probably next video, get them all onto the new engine. Here is the engine, pretty much exactly the same as I left it in the last video. And the only thing I've done is just turn the engine and crane 180 degrees around so it's facing the other way. That's just to make it easier with the transmission swap that I want to do. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So what is going on is I purchased the other engine over here just as an engine. Basically, it was pretty complete. I purchased it with the exhaust manifolds, water pump, and intake. That's it. So the starter will need to be removed, and yeah, a few other things. We'll remove the transmission just because I want to use this, the BorgWarner 66. I much prefer that transmission. But that sort of brings up one little thing, because along with the coolant issue this engine's had, the last month or so of driving it, I noticed an odd sound on the acceleration, a bit of a sort of tappety, weird metallic sound. And I don't think it was actually from internally in the engine. At least I couldn't really hear it when I was just standing still and sort of revving it. So either it was something to do with the stainless exhaust downpipes here, which are kind of thin on this car, fitted by a previous owner, make a lovely sound, but they're very thin metal, so maybe they were sort of cracking or making a crackling sound. Or, which I'm hoping it's not, flex disc could be cracked. It's not completely uncommon on a Series 3 engine, so fingers crossed that's not the case, but we'll find out today, because I think the first job will be to remove this transmission. And in order to do that, I have it up in the air, so I can remove this plate down here first, and here with just a couple bolts. I will lower it down onto a piece of wood there with some wheels on it. Then we'll remove the starter, get the torque converter bolts out, I believe it's 3 of them, and then we'll get the bell housing bolts out, and hopefully it should separate pretty easily. Alright, the plate is removed, very dirty and grimy, so we'll clean that up. But now, let's try and lower the engine down just so the transmission is sort of resting on that, you want to call it skateboard or something. Okay, let's try and move it a little bit and get part of the bell housing on there as well. Alright, that seems to be on there. Now, let's move on to get the starter off. Let's have some lights here so hopefully you guys can see a little bit better. It's in the corner of the workshop I'm not in. But removing the starter is very simple. It's just 2 bolts here. This is quite a heavy beast though. But I do know that the starter works well. It's never let me down. So definitely just reusing it. And if anything happens, I do have a couple spare 4.2 starters on the shelf. So I'm going to undo that, and then we should have access through the starter hole see the bolts that go into the torque converter from the flex plate. And there we go. Starter lifts out and still pretty clean. I did just sort of degrease it when I put this engine together, or when I had the head off the first time, but doesn't look too bad. I mean, it could be painted, but once again, this is a daily driver. Should look nice, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And then looking in here, we should be able to see those bolts. I can't see one of them right now, so we'll get a socket on the front of the engine, turn it over a bit until we can see the first one. Okay, if you look in there through the starter hole, and I turn the engine over now, should be able to see one of the bolts soon, I hope. And there we go. That is the first one. So I'll remove those, and the other ones, that will be the flex plate and the torque converter won't be connected together anymore, and then we can just get the belt housing bolts out. If you find yourself with one that's really tough to get out, on the other side of the engine, when you have removed that plate over there, you can actually get an extension through there and get an impact. So for instance, I have this one, which I just couldn't get it off on the other side, and it's pretty stuck on there. And there we go. The last one is out now, so that's definitely a possibility. Sometimes they can be very, very tight. Now the torque converter is completely loose from the flex plate. Next thing I'm going to do, and this is just optional, I'm going to remove these cooler lines. They run past the block, and it's just, I don't want to damage them. So I'll do that and then plug the holes with just a piece of paper. And I have some comments about this sign here in the background, and yes, I am going to hang it up, and yes, it is a Rick's Cafe American sign that is from the movie Casablanca, which happens to be my favorite movie. And back when I was in high school, I believe it was my junior prom, I made that sign because the theme for the prom, and for some reason I was on the prom committee because I was the school DJ and a bunch of things like that, but for some reason they couldn't come up with a theme for prom, and I was like, you know, well, it's formal dress and all that, so why not make it Casablanca? And they went for it. So that was the theme of my junior prom, and I made that sign that they hung above the bar at prom. So that was kind of fun. I have to say, I lived in the Netherlands at the time, and yes, I went to an American school there. So that means that the drinking age was 16. So yes, we did have alcohol at my prom. All right, get these off, and then we got very, very close to being able to find out if this flex plate is usable or not. If it's not, I really hope that some of my spare ones are usable. I've never really looked at them. I just have a couple of them, but we will see. I think it actually is pretty much coming out. It's just stuck in there a little bit. There we go. Now they are out of the way, and I'm going to clean around the hole a little bit and plug it. Got a little bit of fluid coming out there, but not too bad. Did just think of one thing though, because I do have the transmission out now, it would be an excellent time to check the adjustment of the brake bands. So I think we will do that before putting it back in. So let me know if you want to see a video on that. It's pretty straightforward, and it's very easy to do when the transmission is out. I'm going to plug this hole pretty quickly because that's pouring out a lot more fluid than I would like. Alright, camera is actually about to run out of battery. I think we can get this before. So I got the last bolt coming out here. We can already see a lot of separation. So I think hopefully they should come apart pretty easily. And you saw that I removed those plates at the bottom. Maybe not completely necessary, but I wasn't sure which way this thing would angle when it comes apart. So I thought, you know, not a bad idea. Let's see, I can have a rubber mallet here. Starting to come apart. Got the dowel pins. And I do think that we are completely separated? Well, that did not exactly go as planned. There's good news and bad news. Let's start with sort of the bad part. As you see, bit of a bloodbath here on the floor. Lots of transmission fluid. So the torque converter slipped out of the transmission. Not what I wanted to happen, but it can happen. It's not the end of the world, but that means I have to reseat it in again, and hopefully the seal in there I won't damage, but I'll clean everything up and take care of that. So the camera, like I said, it was running out of battery. I put it on charge and I thought, you know what, while it's charging, let me just move the transmission out a little bit more so I could get a good shot of, you know, the rest of it sliding out. However, just as I was doing that, I noticed that, okay, the torque converter is still pretty much stuck onto the flex plate, and I got some pry bars in and various things. It did not work, and then all of a sudden the transmission slid back, and I guess that's what I get for trying to be clever and putting it on a wheel board thing. I thought that'd be a great thing to move it around when I want to put it on the other engine, but it slid back, and that happened. There is a pin on the bottom here. Let's see if I can sort of flip this a tiny bit. You see right there? That goes into here, which sort of looks like where a pilot bushing would go on a manual flywheel. But yeah, not the end of the world. I'll clean up this area really well here. It doesn't look that bad. There's definitely some oil residue out here, but that looks like it's from a bad rear main seal. I'm not sure if this thing was leaking a lot from the rear or not. It's a little wet down there, but not terribly. Who knows the history? Maybe they didn't clean the inside of bell housing when they had this thing apart last time. Who knows, or this has been leaking a little bit, but transmission does not seem to have been leaking, so I think that seal is fine. And this surface here is very, very nice. There are no marks on there at all, so I'll clean everything up very well, lubricate this, slide it back together. On to the good news, however. The really good news is the flex plate is in excellent condition. No issues at all with it. No cracks from the mounting coils down here or anything. None of the rivets are loose or anything. Even the ring gear looks to be in really good shape. So definitely reusable. So I'll have to remove that, put that on the other engine. And I thought I could briefly go through one thing that I had missed before. I completely forgot that this part that goes over here where the starter is, of course you can remove that. I don't know why I didn't do that before. That does give better access to the torque converter bolts, and well, you need it to get it off. But I think that will do tonight. I achieved what I wanted to. I wanted to see the condition of the flex plate, just knowing I've had to source another one. So that is really good news. So probably the sound was maybe something in the engine or maybe something in the exhaust. We'll see if we still hear it when it's all back together with the other engine. But still some things to move over. I will do a couple things off camera. I'll do the same thing to that engine and remove that transmission. You don't need to see that. It'll be pretty much exactly the same. And I will also remove a few other things as well. Like the power steering pump that I will be using mine. And yeah, a couple other small details. We'll make a video, however, on swapping over the oil filter housing, because this one has an aftermarket spin on oil filter housing converter, which is a great thing. However, I would like to retain having an oil cooler, so I will use the Series 3 housing, but that does make life a little bit difficult because on a later engine, oil to the camshafts up here comes from the oil filter. On the early engine, like this one, it comes from down there, from an oil gallery down there. So I just gotta decide what I'm gonna do. But I'll let you guys know, and there'll probably be some video updates on all of that. Anyways, that's it for this video. I just wanted to show sort of getting a transmission apart, even though it did not go exactly to plan. That can happen sometimes if you're unlucky, that the torque converter just doesn't want to get out there, and it is so easy for it to want to slide out of a transmission. It's, you know, it's lubricated and everything. Won't be a big deal. I'll put it all back together, and let me know in the comments down below. Would you like to see me adjust the bands and stuff on the transmission? Because I will do that. If you want to see a video of that, let me know in the comments down below. Also, I need to start cleaning up the engine bay and do some more things. So not really sure when exactly the next video will be on this car, if it will be a next video on the channel, or if maybe there'll be something else in between. It all depends sort of, yeah, how it goes with the cleaning and how the disassembly of the other engine goes. But if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam, and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.